Hey, what's up, everyone? I am excited to talk about time management because time is one of those things that we know it's the most valuable asset that we have, but yet people steal our time from us all the time, right? If somebody came up and stole $5 from you, wouldn't you be annoyed? Wouldn't you do something about it? You'd be bothered, try and find out who it was. If you found out who it was, you'd be mad at them. You'd perhaps, if it was, I don't know if it was more money or even at $5, you would, try and make it right? You would, if somebody's stealing a significant amount, you'd prosecute. If you've got employee embezzlement, people steal money and we take action. It gets our attention, but yet money is not even our most valuable resource. Money is a valuable resource, but it's not the most valuable resource. The most valuable resource is our time. And how often are other people stealing yours? What do I mean by that? Well, it's really simple. People come up out of the blue and grab a phone conversation or a conversation in the hall with you or something. They come into your office and they ask you questions unannounced, interrupted. Now, I'm not saying be a robot. I'm not saying we can't roll with the punches. We're humans and we have to live our lives and do things, and there's going to be interruptions, yes. But if you're not teaching the world around you of the value of your time, they're not going to value it. And you'll find yourself being picked apart and your day coming and going, and you're like, I didn't even get to do anything. What happened? So there was a sign on a mentor's of my, I had a mentor of mine years and years ago. He had a sign on his wall that said, if you don't have something to do, don't do it here. And I thought it was funny at the time. I thought, that's cute. If you don't have something to do, please don't do it here. And years and years later, to this day, that it really actually has become a mantra for me. It's not funny anymore. It's like, that's a really great piece of advice, because the first thing that you want to be aware of is spending time around people that make good use of their time. So that's step number one, is you want to spend your time around people who are good at time management, who value their time, and you value their time as well as you value yours. And so become like those you hang around. So that's step number one. But step number two, I want to give you just a little bit, a tidbit of advice here. If you find yourself caught up in a conversation and you don't like to say no to people, most of us don't like to just be rude. We feel like it's being rude to just say, no, I can't talk to you right now, or I don't have time for you right now, or this. How do you get out of that when someone's starting a conversation? What do you say? How do you get out of that? It's awkward, and we don't want to be rude. So what do you do? It's a great question, right? Well, an old, a former therapist that I used to go to would say, he had a funny line that he would say, I've got something that's just come up that I've got to take care of. And he said if they ever wondered, the thing that just came up was a more valuable or more important conversation. So he was very adamant about time management, and he would use that line on people. If something's come up, I've got to go. And he would justify it in his mind that there's something more important I've got to get to than spending time listening to you babble on about whatever, wasting my time. Anyways, so the thing, though, that I wanted to tell you was, here's the tip. Instead of telling people no, ask them to table the conversation for a later date. And the reason that I say that, number one, it's easier. It's easier to say, hey, can we talk about this maybe tomorrow over lunch, or can we talk about this tonight? If it's your kids, if it's they're interrupting and asking for things, you say, I'm in the middle of something right now, but let's talk about it later. It's easy to say that because you're still validating that what they have to say is important. And nobody likes to, few of us like to just flat out say no, sorry. That's we feel like that's kind of rude. So it softens that, makes it easier to say no, because you're not saying no, you're saying later. And there's a big difference. It's a lot easier to say later. Anyways, but the second thing, and this is the gem, this is what I love about this idea, is that it forces it to be an important conversation. Because now I'm shifting the responsibility of remembering this later date where we want to have this conversation to the shoulders of the person who's bringing up the topic in the first place. Does that make sense? So now they have something to do. They have to remember to come back to you at that later date. It's not your job. You've asked them. Now, they're the ones that are coming to you with this conversation. So naturally, they should remember. They should go on their shoulders. It's not you asking for this conversation. It's them. So give them the responsibility. Say, come back to me later tonight, and we'll talk about it then, or whatever time. Or call me tomorrow, or whatever, okay? So what that does is this. What it does is it makes life just a little bit inconvenient for them to remember. And here's the beauty of it is if it's important enough, if the conversation they're having with you truly is important, they will remember. It'll come naturally. If it's not important, it's going to be a burden. It's going to be one more thing they got to do. And they're not going to want to do it. So if that's the case, then the conversation naturally goes away on its own, right? Did you see what's going on there? You're putting in a filter in place, an automatic filter in place to determine whether or not a conversation is going to be important enough for them to come back. And if it is that important, if it's somebody that works with you or a child or somebody that needs some attention or something, and it's important enough, they will come back and they will bring it back up again. Passing that test gives you some level of assurance, and it's still no guarantee, but some level of assurance that it's something at least moderately important, and it helps you sift out all the unimportant stuff that's just babble. It's just babble. There's so much gossip. There's so much negative talk. There's people that just want to be heard. They just want to talk about how bad their day was, or this or that. And if you say to the end of that person, this is great. Can we talk tomorrow? What is the likelihood of that person coming back tomorrow? Yeah, okay, now I'm ready to talk about how bad my day was, or about how so-and-so did this, and I can't believe why. That's kind of ridiculous. Most people would either go, never mind, I'm not going to bring it up tomorrow, it's not that big of a deal, or they'll forget, or whatever. So it's an easy way for you to not have to say no. You can say later, put the responsibility back on their shoulders, and watch that filter do its natural thing. So anyway, bottom line, your time is the most important and most valuable resource that you have. That's why it's so hard to get in touch with high-powered executives and CEOs, because they understand the value of time. And you can't just reach out to them, call them, email them, or whatever, because their time is limited. We all have the exact same amount, and you never get it back. So value your time and show the world, teach the world how valuable your time is by implementing a couple of these things, a little catchphrase, or a later instead of a maybe, a later instead of a no, and watch how people start seeing you differently and start respecting your calendar a lot differently. All right? Let me know how that helps. Love to hear your comments and your thoughts below. Talk soon. Bye.